You are wicked, but I am more wicked than you, so be silent. Oh, hi. Welcome back. If you missed the title of this video, this is part 2 of Eternal Darkness, I think. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, there's a link in the description. Go watch that first. Don't worry, I'll wait right here for you to come back. Unless you pause the video, I'm not actually gonna wait. Now, where did we leave off? Oh yeah. Good day. I am Dr. Edwin Lindsay, renowned archaeologist. I've come to explore this ancient temple that has been lost for centuries, until Dr. Roivas was able to pinpoint its location. And this is my associate, Paul Augustine, an antiquarian who has agreed to sponsor my expedition, and is most certainly not a 2,000-year-old lich that is plotting to betray me.
I am very pleased with your performance, Dr. Lindsay. Very pleased. In fact, so pleased that I will give you an early bonus.
The betrayal! You missed. So, as it turned out, my associate, Paul Augustine, was, in fact, a 2,000-year-old lich that was plotting to betray me. While he ran off to find the treasure, I have been left to fight this bat. And can I just say, I hate fighting the bat. Why? Problem 1. Unlike other enemies that damage your sanity the first time they spot you, bats will constantly drain your sanity until you are dead. Problem 2. Bats are completely invulnerable while they have their wings folded in like so. In order to damage them, you'll have to wait until they get up close, and then you'll have a few seconds in which they'll unfurl their wings and you'll be able to hit them. But then you'd better move out of the way because problem 3, if they bite you, you'll be briefly immobilized. And then problem 4, they'll phone a friend and ask them for assistance in their sacred duty of relieving you of all your mortal possessions, including the blood in your body. Anytime you enter a room and you see the ground that is covered in a colored haze, this is your cue to groan in anger and frustration, because that is a sign that a bat is waiting to bite your face off. Once you kill this one, however, the rest of the chapter is smooth sailing by comparison. Solve some more puzzles, get more magic runes, shoot a few dozen zombies in the head, all basic routine at this point. As you've no doubt realized, this temple is the exact same temple that we were exploring all the way back in Chapter 2, complete with the same hallway traps you know and love. There's the classic darts shooting out of the walls, rotating blades, crushers, and introducing a brand new trap, poison gas! I suggest assigning the restoration spell to a quick cast button because you'll be using it a lot. Towards the end of the chapter, you should have almost every rune in the game, which, in theory, means you can cast every basic spell in the game. All you need is to know the correct combination of runes. Any spell scrolls that you pick up later on are only necessary because they tell you what that combination is and also what the spell is actually called. Speaking of runes, there is one in particular that, unlike the others, which are hard required to progress, this one is very easily missable. You don't need it, you can beat the game without it, but it is an extremely significant rune. Mantarok, the rune which represents the corpse god, who trumps all 3 ancients, allowing you to twist your spells with a brand new flavor of purple demise. Although, to be honest, I didn't really use it too often, partly because Mantarok spells are expensive! I could give you a step-by-step instructions on how to acquire the Mantarok rune, but I have decided not to do that. Consider this a fun little puzzle to figure out yourself, or you can just watch my VOD, that also works. Eventually, I reached the bottom of the temple, Mantarok's tomb. There, I had another run-in with Augustus Gloop, but this time he's brought 2 bats with him. Oh god, please no. Thankfully, Mantarok must have shared my hatred for bats, so instead of sitting there and watching me spend the next 10 minutes kiting them, he vaporized the bats on the spot and told Augustus Gloop to buzz off. Then he unlocked the back room, which was very nice of him. I went in expecting to find lost treasures waiting to be reclaimed and studied. Instead, I found Elia's withered corpse. Wait, how do I know your name? You read the Tome of Eternal Darkness. Oh yeah, I did read the Tome of Eternal Darkness. Never mind. Good. Now take this heart back to Dr. Roivas, otherwise we'll all perish. I would very much rather that I didn't and she's gone. Wonderful. As instructed, I took the heart back to Dr. Roivas, and he stashed it away somewhere in the library. I don't know what exactly he needed it for, but I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, my involvement in this story is over. Since then, I assumed I lived out the rest of my life in relative peace and was not killed by some eldritch horror. Yeah, this is definitely the best outcome by far.
Heresy!
Let us now journey back in time to the age of the Inquisition. I, Paul Luther, was visiting the local cathedral, which just so happens to be built on top of the old chapel that Anthony went to visit. Since the Inquisition has the entire region on lockdown, I thought I might as well go and see the Hand of Jude, a sacred relic that is kept here under the protection of Grand Inquisitor Palpatine, who I'm sure is a very trustworthy individual. I would talk about him more, but he is very busy rooting out heretics right now.
And I wish you luck in your search. The Inquisition does not need luck, Brother Luther. Faith and purity are our guides.
After that introduction, I was left to wander about until I found Oh Sweet Dreams of Azathoth. Unfortunately, because I was the only one present, I became the prime suspect of a murder. And now, let's just say that I was definitely not leaving anytime soon. So I was taken to my new sleeping quarters for the time being, and as I was making myself comfortable, the custodian came in to warn me that I was in grave danger, and that I should escape. But fleeing now would only solidify everyone's suspicion towards me. After all, if I was really innocent, why would I need to run away? My only other option was to find the journal of Brother Andrews, that's the name of the guy who got murdered, by the way, and see if it contained any clues regarding whatever dark secrets this cathedral holds. The custodian told me to go meet him in the bell tower so that we could continue talking away from prying ears. Alright, time to leave my cell now. Uh-oh. This isn't the way out of my cell. When?
Home of eternal darkness!
Later, I made my way to the bell tower. I was expecting that there would be guards going about and that I would need to be stealthy. And, well, there weren't any guards. But there was a zombie. In any other situation, this wouldn't be a big deal. Just chop his head off and be on your way. Except, I am a monk and I have no weapons. I'm sure that some maniac has tried killing a zombie with nothing but their bare hands, but I am not that maniac. So I ran past the zombie and proceeded up the tower. There I met the custodian, and after filling me in on what I already know, he gave me the key to the old tower and said, "Alright, good luck on finding Brother Andrew's journal, you're on your own." Acquired the old tower key. Hooray! We still don't have a weapon. Oh wait, I could use my magic. I have
The home of eternal darkness!
Ooh. Looking back on this footage, I'm pretty sure that trapping people in an invisible box that zaps you when you try to escape would fall under the umbrella of heresy. But I think the ends justified the means. I found this crossbow and some bolts, but then I used up most of them while I was fighting this guy, until I realized that I could use the same trick that I used against the zombie. Well, that was kind of a waste of ammunition, but at least I know the shield spell now! As I was snooping about, I found this vaguely familiar room, which contained Oh Sweet Dreams of Azathoth, Anthony is still here! Unfortunately for him, he was no match for my cunning strategy, which was the exact same strategy that I've been using for the past 10 minutes. And he's still going. How much further must we play this game, my dude? I've got all time, I've got all day. And admittedly, I do not want to, because it's just kind of sad to see you shrivel around like that. A poor tortured soul who wanted nothing more than to save his beloved Charlemagne. Anyways, thanks for the sword. I then used the organ to play some sheet music that I found earlier. Why is this important? Well, one, this sequence reminds me of all the time I spent playing the ocarina in the N64 Zelda games. I do not care what your opinion is, this was the most fun mechanic in the entire Zelda franchise, and the fact that it has never been brought back feels downright criminal. 2, playing this particular song unlocked the cabinet, which allowed me to grab a medallion inscribed with a 5-point circle of power. This is big, because now I can cast spells with 5 runes, instead of only 3. You might think that this would allow you to cast more complex and intricate spells that combine the power of several different runes, but sadly, no. Those 2 extra spaces are reserved for one particular rune.
Pargon.
Pargon runes are added to your spells for the sole purpose of making them more powerful. A little disappointing, but that's still pretty cool. However, if you wanted to cast one of your previously discovered spells at a higher level, you will first need to research it by manually inputting runes to form the desired spell. This is particularly annoying because the 3-point version of each spell is automatically researched when you pick up a spell scroll, but the 5-point version is not. The only difference between each version is that we added 2 scoops of Pargon, and you have to do this every time with every spell that you already know! Whatever, let's get back to exploring the cathedral. My search led me deep into the catacombs, where I found my way through all manner of horrid abominations. Soon I found a page from Brother Andrew's journal, which confirmed my greatest fears. The Inquisitors, led by Palpatine, were the true perpetuators of Heresy! They had been using the Hand of Jude, which was actually the essence of Xylotath, to lure in visitors, only to sacrifice them for some dark purpose. Brother Andrews must have been silenced for knowing too much. Hands shaking, I raced back to the bell tower in order to share my findings with the custodian. Except he wouldn't accept my findings because I had only found 2 of the 3 journal pages. Are you serious? I gotta find the first page. I didn't find the first page. I have the 3rd page, which pretty much says everything, but I need to find the first page too. Where is the last page? Where's the first page? Oh yeah, have I actually used the podium key? Where's this podium that I need to use the key on? Single podium, and lectern provides a platform for a priest giving a sermon to his congregation. There's a drawer recessed inside it. There we go. Alright, now that I have all of the evidence, we can relay our findings to the custodian. The 2 of us quickly realized that with this wretched discovery, we are next on the chopping block. And because leaving is still not an option, my only move now is to venture deeper into the catacombs, confront Palpatine himself, and put an end to this evil.
Evil is merely a perspective which no longer concerns me, Luther. You will be executed in the most painful manner imaginable.
After his brief monologue, he left me to die at the hands of the xenomorphs, which, if you ask me, is a massive blunder on his part, because if I can kill 1 xenomorph without much trouble, what made him think that 2 xenomorphs would be much different? After sating my bloodthirst, I chased after Palpatine. It's quite the extravagant room. Feels like you could have a boss fight in here or something. Where is Palpatine? I just saw him go in here, did I not? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh no! It's a jellyfish! With legs!
This is the one that seeks to do combat with me.
Oh! Oh, and Palpatine was actually Augustus Gloop in disguise, by the way. Didn't see that twist coming, did you? Well, it probably would have made more sense had I not insisted on changing Palpatine's name from Augustine. Yeah, Augustine. Yeah, there's real originality there. I'll admit, I'm a little lost in the plot at this point. For reasons that no one can be bothered to explain to me, nor can I be bothered to do any research, Augustus Gloop has been capturing random people to help construct a pillar of flesh in the middle of the desert. However, the construction site is set directly on top of some ancient underground ruins, and there is concern that said ruins might not be stable enough to support the weight of a massive pillar of flesh. For that reason, an architect by the name of Roberto Bianchi, aka me, has been sent down to survey the underground ruins and ensure that they are safe for construction. And no, I don't exactly have a choice in the matter, because my only other option is... So we might as well get to work and start surveying. After only a few minutes, it quickly became apparent that this was not going to be an easy job. Have you ever had to fight a room full of zombies with nothing but a random sword you found and the clothes on your back? I know I make this look easy, but it's scarier than you might think. Right up until you remember that the black ones can be defeated by setting them on fire. Why did I say that? I'm gonna get cancelled now. I rediscovered
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
shortly afterward. And by this point, you've probably begun to notice how being able to cast magic is a massive power boost, as well as a source of surefire entertainment. Hey dude, over here. Oh, over here. Over here. I want to show you something. Come on. Come on, I want to show you something. Like bugs into a bug zapper. Moving on, we found, oh goody, another bat! I love fighting bats! I love fighting bats! I absolutely love fighting bats! Oh no. Later, while I was passing through this hallway, I suddenly felt my GameCube controller vibrate in my hands. At first, I thought it was another one of the game's hallucinations, so I ignored it. But I passed through this same hallway later on, and I realized that my controller vibrated every time I passed by this particular spot. This was no hallucination. Something fishy's going on here. So I cast Reveal Invisible, and my suspicions were confirmed when a sapphire effigy appeared before me. What is this used for? Put simply, it is a surprise tool that will help us later. Then I found this room, which looks strangely familiar.
Venture no further, or be struck down where you stand. I am the guardian of this temple, the Forbidden City.
Wait, pause. What's the name of this chapter again? He said the line!
None shall enter except the chosen. Speak. You are unaffected by the power I wield. Now my duty is complete. I can finally rest. My sacrifice was not in vain.
Alright. Have fun partying with your girlfriend, Ghost. Bye. Ooh, crab claw. Wonder if we can make that into a nice stew. Finally, I reached the very end of the ruins, where I found a pit that was filled with
An Alaskan bulwark!
That's it? Underwhelming encounter aside, I've completed my survey, so time to get out of here. I reported my findings to the definitely not Augustus Gloop in disguise again, and gave my professional opinion that if we were to build anything on top of these ruins, then structural instability would be the least of our concerns. No, get off. Definitely not Augustus Gloop chose not to heed my warnings, and instead continue with the construction of the Pillar of Flesh. But, as a reward for my efforts, I was allowed to witness this construction, which involved sacrificing people by shoving them down a hole. By the way, did I mention that this event had audience participation? Wait, hold on. Can we talk about this? Ah! What about my crab claw? Oh. There are people inside. Oh no. Cool. This is Peter Jacob, reporting to you live from the front line in World War I. Amiens has become an active war zone. I set up camp in this cathedral, which has been converted into a field hospital in order to care for all the wounded soldiers. I can constantly hear the sounds of gunfire and bombs dropping in the distance. I am surrounded by men on what may be their deathbeds, cowering from the never-ending hell that no man was meant to witness just outside of these walls. In spite of current events, you might think that this is a safe space, sheltered from the horrors of war. After all, a shelter made of paper is better than nothing at all, but you will soon realize, as I have, that there are worse places to be than hell. I was writing in my notebook when I happened to look up, and I saw an unconscious soldier being dragged away. Having read numerous letters that were to be sent home, I got the suspicion that something was not right about this hospital. So I began snooping around. All of a sudden, uh-oh. You know how in Minecraft monsters will spawn anywhere that's dark enough? Yeah. So anyway, the xenomorphs are here now, and I wasted all of my bullets on the first one I encountered. Wonderful. Now I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes! This is the exact same cathedral in which Anthony found the 3-point magic circle that allowed us to cast magic, and then later Paul found a 5-point circle that allowed us to cast more powerful magic. And now you're probably wondering, if we're back here again, then does that mean that we're going to find a 7-point magic circle that would allow us to cast even more powerful magic? To that I say, how the hell did you know that it was going to have 7 points? But yes, it's right here, dashed in this back room, waiting for you to come pick it up. In order to retrieve it, I had to summon a chihuahua-sized displacer beast to teleport away this soldier, who had come up with the 1200 IQ play of using his own corpse to barricade the door shut. I wish I could have kept the displacer beast as a pet, but you know how bees will die shortly after they use their stinger? Yeah!
Dead!
At this point, the game starts to become kind of a meme, because all the 7-point spells are exactly the same as the 3 and 5-point spells. The only difference is the amount of times we have to press the Pargon button on our soundboard. I've been glossing over most of the puzzles in this game, because I don't want to rob you of the joy of solving them yourself, though none of them are at all very deep. But this one I'm about to talk about is just plain stupid. I'm glad I didn't go into this game blind, because otherwise I would have been stuck at this point for an hour at least. So, in order to progress, we need to play a song on Ye Olde Pipe Organ. But in order to do that, we need to power up the generator and repair this fuse box. The problem is that the fuse has gone missing, and there is no clue as to where it could have gone, nor does there appear to be any replacement fuses lying around. Can you guess at what you're supposed to do in order to repair the fuse box? I'll give you a moment to think about it. Alright, time's up. Was your first guess jam my lucky penny into the fuse box? Of course it wasn't, because you're not a freaking lunatic! I mean, yeah, I can see how it works, metal conducts electricity, but if this isn't moon logic, then it's the closest thing that I've ever almost had the displeasure of experiencing. Thankfully, this is the only moon logic instance in this game that I can think of, so I'm willing to let it slide. But there is still a war going on outside. Everything's working. Oh! I really hope I can get to the bottom of this cathedral while it's still standing buried in a pile of rubble. Before delving deeper into the catacombs, I decided to take a quick break. I just need to go to the bathroom real quick. I only mentioned this because I forgot to hide this message when I got back, and I somehow didn't notice it was still there for 13 minutes. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn the break off. Right before that happened, I found the magical attack spell scroll. Why it would be here of all places? That is a mystery we will never know the answer to. But what I do know is that this spell is a surprise tool that will help us later. And by later, I mean right now, because guess who's been waiting for us? Oh, a jellyfish! That's right, it's the giant walking jellyfish from 2 chapters ago. And I'm sorry to break it to him, but we're not going to end up a stain on the floor like the last guy did. Time for an actual boss fight. It's actually a fairly simple fight. All we need to do is dodge these attacks, wait for the boss to let his guard down, and then cast that magical attack spell that I mentioned about 20 seconds ago. Hit him a couple times, and we move on to phase 2, in which, instead of attacking, he'll summon zombies to kill you instead. This phase is absolutely infuriating, because if you kill the zombies before the jellyfish drops his guard, he will not drop his guard. So you gotta wait for the next batch of zombies so you can try again. Why isn't he doing his thing? Why isn't he doing his thing? Aren't you gonna try to do your thing? You need to recharge, don't you? Nope, he's just gonna keep going. He's just gonna keep going. Zombies, zombies, more zombies. Maybe I'm just killing the zombies too fast. What am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong here? Someone tell me what I am doing wrong here. Okay, what is this? I am clearly doing something wrong, because it is not working. Once I started looking at this as more of a timing puzzle than a fight, it became much easier. Gotta. Phase 3 is much less of a drag. The jellyfish forces you into stomping range, tries to step on you, and you hit him while he's casting his magic. Woo! Got him! Jellyfish down! Jellyfish down! With the mighty jellyfish vanquished, I was able to claim the essence of Zelatath, and then I made a dramatic off-camera escape. I held on to my prize for 69 years. Don't say it. Eventually, wanting to rid myself of the restless nights caused by its influence, I gave the artifact to Dr. Edward Roivas, who seemed to know more about the artifact than anyone else I had spoken to. Good riddance, I say. This cursed object has been nothing but trouble. Now, I can finally rest. Forever. We're entering the home stretch now, so let's do a quick recap. Augustus Gloop entered the ruins in the desert beneath Persia over 2,000 years ago, and he claimed the essence of Ulyath, which turned him into a lich. The heart of Mantarok was found in an ancient tomb and is now hidden in Grandpa Edward's library. The essence of Zelatath was found in the catacombs beneath France, and is now also in Edward's possession. Or at least, it was until he died, but we'll get back to that in a minute. All that's left is the essence of Chattur'gha, aka that crab claw that was in Roberto's pocket when he was buried alive during the construction of the Pillar of Flesh. We'll get back to that too, don't worry. But first, it's about time we ask the question. Who is Edward Roivas? Well, for starters, he's a psychologist who has taken a particular interest in the occult, as well as his own family history. He knows far more about the ancients than most, if not all, scholars, as he indicates in his opening monologue.
I would love to see how Freud's view of his mother would change with the knowledge of Chattur'gha.
I'm sorry, what? One fateful night, as he was perusing his library, he was visited by the ghost of his ancestor, Maximilian Roivas, whom you may remember for attempting to cook forbidden shrimp fried rice and going insane. Now he has come back from the grave to help Edward by giving him the cookbook,
Home of Eternal Darkness!
But shortly after he picked it up, a Covenant Elite vampire appeared out of nowhere and started sucking the soul out of one of my maids, turning her into a bloodthirsty zombie. Ah, Apple Crisp. We just can't get a moment of rest in this house, can we? The next sequence is essentially a game of cat and mouse, except the mouse, the Elite, is slightly larger than the cat, you, and instead of looking for cheese, the Elite is hungry for souls. It'll sneak around the manor, and occasionally it'll attack one of the servants until you barge in and cut its ugly face off with a sword, after which it will then teleport down to the basement and indulge itself in a drink from its personal water fountain. You could just sit around and wait for somebody to scream for help. In fact, you probably should do that, because one of the servants will give you the key to the gun cabinet if you save his life. But after that, if you're smart, you can cast Reveal Invisible, so that you can see and attack the Elite before it reaches its next victim. However, I decided to go a step further by standing outside the basement door and spawn camping the Elite until he drops the key to the basement. Then I went downstairs, destroyed the water fountain, and killed the Elite for good. Alright, problem solved! Except now, the well is open again. And do you remember what's at the bottom of that well? That's right, Shrimp City, it's still there. We may not have come back here with anywhere near half as many men as Maximilian was hoping for, but we do have a much more powerful version of the
Home of Eternal Darkness!
that could summon demons to do my bidding, firearms that are significantly better and easier to reload than flintlock pistols, and several flasks of liquid courage to help us keep pushing forward. It'll have to do. After blasting this gigantic shrimp's face off, I found the control room, which is actually the center of this massive 9-point magic circle. By pressing one of these buttons, I can activate the teleporter, which will take me to one of the 9 towers in the city, where I can inscribe a rune of my choice. For 6 of these towers, the choice was extremely easy, because the only available choice was
Pargon.
Do you see what I mean about this game becoming a meme? After you've set your rune, you'll be teleported to a random point in the city. From there, you'll have to solve some puzzles and or fight your way back to the control room. Then you can teleport to the next tower and repeat this whole process until you've completed your spell. Going into this, my first thought was, oh boy, I get to cast a spell of my choice to try and destroy the city. This ought to be fun. I had the idea to cast the barrier spell because I thought it would be absolutely hilarious to trap the entire city in a magical However, when I completed the spell, the machine fizzled out. Pargon, Pargon, Zelotath, Pargon, Pargon, here. Oh, I don't think it liked that spell. And I came to the disappointing realization that the game would only let me cast one particular spell. So I had to go back and change this rune in order to create the Dispel Magic spell. As I inputted the final rune, I felt the ground shake beneath my feet. The spell was being cast, and I decided it was in my best interest to get the heck out of here. I ran as fast as my legs would carry me, not stopping until I reached the tower that connected the bottom of my well to the city entrance, where I got front row seats to the results of my sabotage. A wave of searing green light burst from the city center, frying the hordes of shrimp and blue men and completely devastating the city. The immediate threat may have been dealt with, but I knew I hadn't seen the last of these horrors. Edward proceeded to spend the next 48 years learning everything he could about the Ancients, and making careful preparations to fight back against Ulyav. But Augustus Gloop and his army of seafood wanted revenge for Edward's interference in their plans. And revenge they would soon have. As one fateful evening, Edward was relaxing in his study, when a shrimp appeared behind him, and, well... Oh no, this is when the shrimp take revenge. That leads us right back to the start of this game. So now we've solved the mystery of how Grandpa Edward died. Hooray! My name is Michael Edwards. The boys and I were setting up the explosive to destroy these ruins and bury an out-of-control fire. But we must have used some faulty wiring, because the explosives detonated before we could get away, and we fell down into the ruins beneath the surface. Somehow, I survived the fall with nothing but a few scratches. As for the boys, they weren't so lucky. As I took stock of the situation, I saw that I had landed at the foot of a horrifying structure, which I would later learn was called the Pillar of Flesh. From its base, a ghost appeared, gave me this cursed crab claw, instructed me to deliver it to the Roivas estate, refused to elaborate any further, and then vanished. Tail. Now, do you remember those bats that I hate so much? Guess what? They're back! And while I dreaded having to fight them again at first, those feelings quickly melted away when I realized that the assault rifle I looted from this soldier's corpse can make very short work of them. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. In addition to the crab claw, the ghost also gave me these ruby and sapphire effigies. I don't know exactly what they're used for, but I do know that if someone made a ruby and a sapphire version of a product, then there must also be an emerald version. So, as I sought my way out of the ruins, I made sure to keep an eye out for an emerald effigy. I searched every nook, every crate. It's right in the middle of this barrier that's blocking the path forward. Before I can retrieve
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
So that I can dispel this barrier, I needed to recreate that one iconic scene from everybody's favorite piece of media, Kingdom of Loathing. But before I could do that, my GameCube controller got disconnected, and I could do nothing but watch as my character got mobbed by a bunch of zombies that were looking for an excuse to detonate the C4 strapped to their chests. But before I was forced to witness the game over screen, I realized that everything that had happened in the previous sentence was nothing more than a figment of my imagination, and I hadn't even left the room yet. Whew! Thank goodness. I fought through hordes of monsters without getting blown up, and then I found this scroll for the bind spell, which allows me to force a monster into fighting for me. This is very funny to watch. After successfully persuading this man to beat his former friend to death, I thought it wouldn't be fair if I didn't kill him as well. In the back of that room, I found a bundle of plastic explosives with— Wait a sec, I was joking about C4 earlier! The voice in my head told me that I should use these explosives to blow up this bridge and the entire ruins with it. And I said, that sounds like a great idea, voice in my head! But first, I needed to use those effigies that I collected to unlock a secret room, which contains a magical green sword. This sword is like a regular sword, except it's permanently enchanted by Zelatath. Like the Rune of Mantarok, it's not required to beat the game, but it is convenient to have. Unfortunately, I, Michael Edwards, can't use it because I, Michael Edwards, am not the Guardian of Light. So I, Michael Edwards, am just going to have to hold on to it for now. Oh look, there's the bridge that I'm supposed to blow up. Let me just get into position, and then... As I was saying, when I prepared the C4, the game told me that these explosives, while powerful, wouldn't be enough to destroy the city. So, I did the only thing that made sense, and enchanted the C4. Enchanted C4. How often do you hear those words in the same sentence? And with the bomb set, it was time for me to get out. Don't you think it's weird how the city is already crumbling like this, despite the fact that the bomb hasn't actually detonated yet? In the end, I escaped with more than a minute and a half to spare. A few years later, I, Michael Edwards, met with the esteemed psychologist Edward Roivist, gave him the ancient crab claw, refused to elaborate.
You must leave now, but there's something I have to do before they get to me.
And then I left. And that was the final chapter in
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
But it's not quite the end of the game yet. Between each chapter, there's a segment in which you play as Alex. You know, the strong, independent woman who's supposed to be the protagonist of this game. Anyway, these segments generally involve you further exploring the mansion, using the knowledge and magic that you've learned from previous chapters in order to find the next chapter. I've been completely skipping over this because, outside of finding those missing pages, nothing really happens. Which is kind of a shame because I really like these segments. They help give the chapter you just finished a bit more meaning, and they add to the sense that you're untangling a big ball of secrets and mystery. For example, way back in chapter 2, there's this candle puzzle that you need to solve in order to unlock the next room. And then after you finish the chapter, you notice that there's a cabinet that's locked by the exact same candle puzzle. Or here, there's a locked door to the spice cabinet that you can't open at the start of the game. But if you grab this sword and then come back after finishing chapter 4, you can... Wait a minute. I swear that this used to be the Sigil of Mantarok, but now it's been changed to Uyath? How? When did this happen? Actually, never mind, I don't care. There's no monsters roaming in the manor or anything like that, so you're safe to go about as you please. At first. But as you read through more and more of
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
You begin to notice how far your sanity has fallen between each chapter, and then the music becomes more unsettling. You start hearing the screams. There's a knocking sound coming from who knows where. You could have sworn that statue was staring at you as you traversed the hallway. At one point, the game hits you with a fake advertisement for the full version. And the paintings. Oh, you don't want to think about the paintings. While there still aren't any enemies here, you don't feel safe in these walls anymore. It isn't until you break open the walled-off servants' quarters and dispel this barrier that the game goes full mask off and starts spawning zombies in the hallway. After finishing Michael Edwards' chapter, we emerged from the study. I temporarily became a member of the Blue Man Group. Oh no, I'm the Blue Man Group! Why did I turn into the Blue Man Group? And then the doorbell rang. Somebody came in, dropped this mysterious parcel, refused to elaborate any further, and then left. I'm getting tired of this gag. I'm gonna stop now. Inside the parcel, I found... the crab claw? Wait, I thought Michael already gave this to Grandpa. Why didn't he have it stashed somewhere in the house? Did he mail the package to himself? Did he specifically instruct the courier, "It is with great import that this package must be delivered to my granddaughter while she is staying at my mansion, shortly after she finishes reading
The Tome of Eternal Darkness!
Do you understand? Do not deliver this package a single moment earlier. Do we really trust the US Postal Service with a dangerous artifact that could determine the fate of the entire world? Why didn't we just ask Michael to hold on to the crab claw and deliver it himself later? I know he did say that he expected that he was going to die the night he gave Grandpa the package, and for all we know, He did? But what was that thing he said he needed to do? No, I'm sorry. I can forget the detail about the spice cabinet, but I refuse to let go of all this cloak and dagger nonsense when we're almost at the end of the... It's Cheated Gladius! Only wielded by Guardian of Light. Guess who that is? It's me! Fear my power! So, we're heading back to that underground city beneath the Roivas estate, which is apparently still there! The only problem is that the well entrance has been sealed up, so we can't go down that way anymore. Instead, we'll have to solve this light puzzle in the observatory, which will open the manhole directly beneath. Then we can march straight into the city and finish the fight. We just need to install the essences that we've collected in order to power up the machine, and then from there, we basically repeat the sabotage operation that Grandpa managed to pull off decades ago. Except this time, we're not going to cast a mass dispel. Instead, we are going to summon a god. Trust me, this is a great idea that cannot possibly go wrong. Oh, and also, they installed an updated security system that consists of a menagerie puzzle, trappers that will sacrifice themselves to teleport you to another dimension, and an electric floor. Once the final spell was prepared, Pargon, I began making my way back to the control room. But then, I carelessly stepped on this ominous purple floor. And then, I got attacked by an
Alaskan bullworm!
That worm has drained me of almost all of my sanity, and trapped me in the sepia dimension, from which there was no escape. Unless I cast a spell to restore my sanity, then I just wake up back where I started. So I began pondering, how was I supposed to walk across this ominous purple floor without alerting the
Alaskan bullworm!
First, I tried using Reveal Invisible with Mantarok, which, instead of revealing the invisible, causes you to become the invisible. Then I tried casting the shield spell with Mantarok, thinking if I blocked the Alaskan bullworm's sanity drain, I could walk away scot-free. KO, but what if I tried the shield spell with Zelotath to create a shield that specifically blocked sanity damage? I might actually go insane. Eventually I realized that the only way to get past the worm was by sneaking across the ominous purple floor. You know, sneaking, as in tilting the control stick very slightly to move very slowly, a mechanic that I had almost never utilized throughout my entire playthrough. And before anyone points out that the game tells you that you can sneak past trappers, allow me to make the argument, why would you waste time and effort sneaking past a problem when you can just remove the problem entirely by shooting it in the head? Point is, getting out of this room took me way longer than it should have. But now it's finally time to confront Augustus Gloop and finish the fight. He's harnessing the power of the blue! Blue! Uh-oh. Jellyfish has emerged! Our own spell's being cast. Zelotath! We've got the dancer. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the final boss. It's actually a pretty straightforward fight. All we gotta do is whack Augustus Gloop to make this jellyfish statue appear, and then we whack the statue to dump your sanity. It's fine, we didn't really need it anymore, it's cool. Eventually, when your sanity is all out and you go to hit the jellyfish, something weird happens. I need to destroy your jellyfish, sorry, nothing personal. Whoa. Oh? Elia, what are you doing? Why are you out of your quarters? We're grabbing the Ghost Book of Darkness? Oh, spooky. Yep, even the dead are coming to fight. Now, when you cut the jellyfish, you'll temporarily transform into the ghost of a previously playable character. And you must find and hit the jellyfish again before Augustus whacks you with his whacking stick. While this is happening, Zelotath and Ulyaoth are in space having a duel to the death. And, well, to say that Zelotath is kicking that giant jellyfish's ass would be a criminal understatement. Oh. Oh. Oh no. I just gotta tag this thing over here. Uh-oh. You didn't need that, did you? Redirection! Redirection! And... oh! Green laser. Oh, you are fried, Mr. Jellyfish. You are fried.
The darkness is not so easily destroyed. No.
Ah. And goodbye, so long, Augustus Gloop. As I beheld the corpse of what was once the Herald of Ulyath, I came to a terrifying realization. I just summoned Zelotath, and if she is left with free reign, she could plunge the Earth into an age of eternal darkness, just like Ulyath would have. But then, in the midst of my groveling, Grandpa's ghost swooped in, altered the spell to bind the God of Madness. Wait, which one's the right rune again?
Good heavens, no, not that one.
Okay, no. Protect.
Ah, that's the ticket.
And saved the day. Then he gave Alex a tearful goodbye, and just like that, it was all over. The end. Or is it? You remember how back when we were playing as Augustus Gloop, we had a choice of 3 different artifacts? Well, as you've probably figured out, the artifact you choose will determine which of the 3 ancients he'll serve, which will slightly alter the story. But, should you finish 3 playthroughs, 1 for each ancient, you'll be rewarded with a secret ending. Or you can look it up online, which is what I did. So each of these 3 playthroughs ends with one of the ancients getting bodied by another, right? Well, it turns out all of those playthroughs combined have created a reality in which Taturga, Ulyath, and Zelotath are all paradoxically dead, leaving only Mantarok. All according to Keikaku. You see, Alex, the Roivas family, and all the other playable characters were mere pawns in a grandiose scheme to get back at the other ancients, thwarting each of their plans for conquest and unleashing them upon one another. We all got played like a damn fiddle. Now, though he remains trapped in his tomb, Mantarok rules over all of creation for the remainder of eternity. Good job! Eternal Darkness, put simply, is one of the most unique horror games that you can find on the market. I can hardly think of a game with a story that spans across time like this, letting you visit familiar locations across multiple time periods to see how they've developed over the numerous years since your last visit. The only other game that I can immediately think of that does anything like this is Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. And my gosh, Silica Knights really knew what they were doing with the sanity system and the hallucinations it inflicted. Some of them are silly, some of them are clearly dated, but many of them, especially the fourth wall breaking ones, can cause you to freak out. Like when you're fighting a whole swarm of baddies and you're trying to kite an entire horde, and then as you move in, it makes you wonder, why haven't we seen any other games like this? Well, the answer to that question is quite simple. Nintendo put a patent on having a sanity system in a video game accompanied by hallucinatory effects. So even if you wanted to, no one could make such a game without the Big N's approval. And then they proceeded to do absolutely nothing with this patent or the Eternal Darkness IP for over 20 years. Likely because the game was an unfortunate commercial flop and Silica Knights went defunct. They did try to get the ball rolling for a spiritual successor, but for reasons that I cannot be bothered to look into, it never came to be. But hey, here's some good news. That patent I mentioned finally expired a few years ago, and Nintendo is too busy pouring all of their legal funding into failing to nuke Palworld, all because Game Freak hasn't been able to make a good Pokemon game since Black and White. Anyways, that is Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. I think. I just want to say one last thing before I end this video. To whoever wrote on the Eternal Darkness wiki that each gatekeeper is exclusive to its respective alignments of fate, that means that one cannot encounter another colored gatekeeper except for the one aligned with the current fate being played. You are a liar. I have proof, and I hope that you get chewed on by ants.